Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bridge Church. Those that are with us here at the St Nicholas Centre, and whether you're joining us at home, on the sofa, or wherever you are online, a really warm welcome to you all.
Yes, indeed. We're so glad to have you with us, whether you managed to swim here or whether you chose to stay at home in the dry. We don't blame you. I'm Corrie.
And I'm Jono. And today, we've got lots in store. We are on the next in our series on Rumours, looking at the subject of race. We've got a talk later on.
We have indeed, which will be a real treat to look forward to. We also have a discussion on this subject of race, which is ever so prominent at the moment, to look forward to. But first,
to kick us off, did you know on this day in 1537, the first complete English language Bible was printed?
On this day in 1883, the Orient Express departed on its first official journey.
On this day in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial Earth satellite into lower orbit.
And on this day, it is the birthday of Stacey Solomon, Ashley Banjo, the famous dancer of Britain's Got Talent fame in the group Diversity, and Leanne Pinnock from Little Mix, and also our very own Bridge Church celebrity, Tammy. So, happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Tammy!
And to Stacey, Ashley, and Leanne, if you're watching, happy birthday too.
Yes, we know you're watching at home. Happy birthday to you guys. So, before we kick off, let's have a little look at our story so far. So, we're now live streaming in October, but let's see how we got to this stage a little bit. We are Bridge Church. Welcome to our story so far.
At the beginning of 2020, the Church of England invited us to start a new church in Ipswich. Through a small group meeting together since January, Bridge Church was born.
For 2 months, we regularly spent time with each other in the St Nicholas Centre, close to Cardinal Park. We got to know one another better and planned for our launch to the public at the end of April 2020.
But there was one thing we didn't see coming. COVID-19. No launch, no meeting together, no church.
So, we had to change our plans, as everybody has.
As a result, we launched online instead on Easter Sunday 2020 and have created ways to do church and do community together online.
Because you see, church is not the place, it's the people. And we're all still here, physically separated, but still working together and doing life together.
As Bridge Church, we hope to do church and community differently. We want to see people who don't give church a second thought begin to think that church might be a good place to be.
We want to be understandable, relevant, accessible, and easy to connect to. We want to see younger generations fully engaged.
We all need each other. So, whoever you are welcome at Bridge Church Online. Come and join the community. Come and join in online. Come and belong.
Today's a big day for us, talking of celebrations. It's our first day live streaming, across the world, wherever that may be. And it's so good to be back together physically at St Nick's Centre in Ipswich as well.
Absolutely. Just like the first Bible being printed, the Orient Express, all of that, this is our big day. And it seems absolutely crazy to think that we made that video 6 months ago now, way back before we realised the importance of toilet roll and flour and Zoom even.
Yeah. But on a serious note, if COVID-19 made you wear a mask with glasses, you may be entitled to condensation.
Indeed.
I am.
Every day at work. But since we made that video, in the last 6 months, so much has happened. We have made such giant steps forward. We have become an online community. Everyone's modelled their way around Zoom. It's been a really great experience, and we're so excited to keep going in that journey as we make this next big step today.
Absolutely. So we've got lots coming on rest of the year as well, most notably the Alpha course starting in November. Check out our new looking website. Massive thank you to all those involved in the tech team, most notably for content, etc., from Tammy and also John Shaw. The website's looking great, so check it out, www.bridgechurchipswich.org.uk. Is that right, guys? Fantastic.
Well done. Good memory. And so, as we move on with our first live streaming event, we have got a talk for you from the Reverend Catherine Ngira, who is from Zimbabwe but now lives and works in Kent. And she has got a really powerful message to share with us this morning on the subject of race.
Have you heard the rumor? A rumor that is spreading that 27 years ago, a song was sung. Different Colors, One People was its title. The singer was expressing his dream of a world where all people, despite their colors, would have come to realize that they are one people. But he also invites the world to join him in singing his song. While other rumors tend to be lies, this is not a lie, but is the truth. 27 years ago, one of the best musicians from Africa by the name Lucky Dube released an album called Victims, where he explored and talked about issues to do with racial injustice in South Africa during the apartheid era. And one of the songs that he sang is, of course, Different Colors, One People. He recalled how yesterday someone could not say a sound. They were just killed without even making a sound. But he is amazed by how now, at that time, then, people were able to sing different colors, but one people. That's 27 years ago. 27 years, yes. But yet, the reality is, doesn't seem like anything has changed, does it? He opened by saying, yesterday you couldn't say a sound, you couldn't make a sound. And yet, in the death of George Floyd, we saw how, of course, he made a sound, but probably no one heard that sound. And this is where we are now. The rumors are still spreading that there is a better world to come. A world where all people are united. A world where there is no racial discrimination. A world where people look at each other beyond the color of the skin. But it's still sad that we haven't got there yet. We are not there yet. Some may ask, what does racism look like? Is racism even in the church? The sad thing is, yes, it is. It is very, very much prevalent in the church as much as it is in the world. Oftentimes we have seen people celebrating the growth and the rise of many kind of black majority churches in particular, or sometimes not just black majority churches, but celebrating how when a certain racial group come together and they're just worshiping in their own bubble, we celebrate that and we rejoice. But I tend to differ. My heart aches when I see that. Because for me, it's just an evidence of how the church has failed to be a place where different people, different races can coexist side by side with one another. Some of it we are to blame for it. Some of it we inherited it. But the truth still remains. There is still racial discrimination in the church. Institutional racism, sometimes where a particular group is still regarded as better than the other, where a certain type of skin color determines what roles someone can have and what roles someone cannot have. Yet in such a world, where is the hope? Are there any rumors in the Bible that can give us hope to say, yes, what Lucky Dube sang about 27 years ago, now is the time where the whole world is going to come together and join and sing that song, that we are different colors but one people. In Genesis chapter 1, Andy read from it last week, and in particular on verse 27, I will read it. It says, "So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them." And Lucky Dube, in his song as well, references this verse. He cries to the government that do not separate these people. God created all men. He created them, but he didn't say black or white. So who are you to separate the people? And in our scripture reading, we hear how God created humankind. It does not say black or white. He created everyone in his own image. So if God created everyone in his own image, why are we so stuck up in looking at the skin color and discriminating against one another. Where is our hope as humankind? Where is our hope as God's children, or those who are still exploring or still trying to find meaning in what it means to be God's children? In Galatians 3:26-28, it speaks about there is no longer a Jew or a Greek. There is no longer a slave or a master. For all are one in Christ Jesus. So if we all realize that it is not about the color on our skin, we are all created in God's image. And when He created us, He didn't create us and just say, this is black and this is white, and I associate with black or I associate with white. There is neither black nor white in Christ Jesus. Because when He came into the world, He died for all people. So in a world where the rumors are spreading that there is a better world to come, yes, there is a better world to come. And we can join in singing the song, Different Colors, One People, because that is the reality. And the reality of it is found in Christ Jesus. He came and He broke all the barriers. So who are you that want to separate the people that God has united? Who am I that I would want to come and separate the people that God has brought together? A better world is to come. A better world has come. It is there to stay, but it is there for us to be a part of. A world where we all join and sing a song as people who are created in God's image, that we are different colors, but we are one people. So I invite you all to sing and join me as I sing the song. We are different colors, but one people. Some are black, some are white, some are pink, some are purple, but we are all one people.
Thank you so much to Reverend Catherine and Gira there. I would encourage you all to listen to Lucky Dube, Different Colours, One People. To that song today, can we all spare 3 or 4 minutes to do that? And just be reminded that through Christ, we are all one. That was such a really powerful talk from Reverend Catherine, so thank you so much. And hopefully we'll meet you one day, for sure.
Yes. So now we're going to have a discussion based on some of the points that Catherine has raised in that talk. So we'd like to invite up Tammy and Callum to come and discuss with us. So you'd like to come and join us. Yeah, why not? Big round of applause. Welcome.
So first of all, happy birthday, Tammy.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have a couple of things we're going to discuss based on what Catherine has just brought to us. But if there is anything you'd like to contribute to the discussion, whether you're here or watching from home, please do Facebook message us privately at Bridge Church, and we will do what we can to add your comments or questions to the discussion. So private Facebook message us, Bridge Church, if you want to get involved. But to begin.
Fantastic.
Hello. Okay, do you want to kick us off?
Could you really briefly just introduce yourselves to everybody here? Is that okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm Tammy.
I'm Callum.
We're married. We've been married for 10 years. We met through a youth group at our old church. We have two children, Phoenix and Anya.
Anya and Phoenix are over there. It's your birthday today?
Yeah, we mentioned that.
Fantastic. And you've been part of Bridge Church since we started.
Yeah, we have.
Back
Yeah.
in the last year, start of this year, haven't you? So, one of the questions that Catherine picked up and put to us was, what does racism look like?
Well, I have a very long list. So I'll read you some things that I think. In today's society, racism very much exists. Society has inherited what we now call as institutional racism. Like Catherine said, promoted by the dominant group in society to preserve the continued dominance of that group. Think George Orwell's Animal Farm, for example. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't even aware. This is called white privilege, in my opinion. Some people don't even believe that they are racist because they have black friends or a brown friend. People will ask a simple question like, where are you from? And I know when they ask that question, they mean, where are you really from? Where are your grandparents from? Because I'm from Ipswich. I've lived in Ipswich all my life. This is a very simple form of institutional racism. You're probably not even aware that you're doing it. You believe you're making conversation or interested in that person, and I'm really sure that you believe that, and that is your intention. But ask yourself, how many of you ask a white person where they are from, unless you're on holiday? The term Black Lives Matter definitely sorted out the wheat from the chaff, in my opinion. Some people generally feel it is okay to say that all lives matter to someone who is standing up for BLM. It just shows that you are either uneducated, fascist, or racist, or all three. BLM doesn't mean that all lives don't matter. There are some brilliant cartoon strips out there that explain BLM, if you'd like to look them up. I'll give you an example now. I have MS, and that's a fact, but my MS isn't that bad, if you want to rate it. Now, if I went to hospital and saw another MS patient who had progressive MS, for example, being treated, and I went bursting into their treatment room and said, I want the same drugs as you. My MS matters. What kind of person does that make me look? It doesn't sound right, does it? Nobody is saying that only Black Lives Matter. You have to understand this. The thing is that society as a whole is we all think that racism is about white against black, and that's not exactly true either. The Brexit vote brought out a whole load of fascists and racists, but that's another debate. How many of you know somebody with a view that illegal immigrants, for example, coming into this country to steal our jobs or to live off the state, instead of thinking about what is wrong in their country and the reason why they're running and risking their lives to travel here by any means necessary? They're my views anyway.
Thank you for sharing. Callum, did you want to add anything to that question?
The thing is quite an edgy subject, and a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about it. And I'm not particularly comfortable either talking about it. But the problem with racism is, I call it modern racism. It's very difficult to prove, and it's very easy to conceal at the same time. I think it's definitely a generational thing. I've definitely noticed this in people. From World War II, the country needed to be built, so we had the whole Windrush generation come in. and try and help sort of rebuild the country, which is their right, and you know, the government kind of encouraged that. But then sort of the rhetoric that came out of that, those people would have seen signs on shops and pubs, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs, which I think is absolutely disgusting, considering these people are coming over here to help our economy, to help rebuild. And then as a result of that, you've then got a mixture of cultures, and then you've got a whole generation of people being brought up to believe that they're not welcome here, they're not doing anything, they're just here stealing our jobs, they're stealing our women, you know, and then you've got the next generation coming in, who's me and Tammy, and my school, my primary school, there were 2 brown people, me and another guy, and 1 Chinese boy in the whole year. And then you look at Phoenix's school, how many different languages?
Oh, they've got about 48 different
48 languages in St Matthew's school in Phoenix's generation. So it's definitely a layer thing, and unfortunately, some of the people in the generation that were growing up along with the Windrush were being fed all this negative energy towards, and that it has been filtered through.
Yeah.
So it's very generational. Yeah. But the old people who probably saw all the good that the Caribbeans were doing probably ignored a lot of the propaganda. And like my great gran, you know, she didn't have a racist bone in her body, you know, and she lived through World War II, and you know, she's the most purest soul ever. But you know, very much a generational thing also.
Really good point, and I think you're so right. It's a really uncomfortable subject for a lot of people to talk about, and the tragic events with George Floyd that Catherine mentioned have brought things to the fore again, which is a positive in a way. And so it's become very, very clear to us that racism still exists in a lot of different forums, and Catherine raised the question of whether it still exists in the church, and I think everyone would like to think that the church would be the one place it doesn't exist, but Catherine was saying how it does exist in the church, and would you agree with what Catherine said there, and do you have any experiences of it yourself?
Well, this goes on to what I just mentioned. It's a very difficult thing to prove. Very difficult. I've got many examples of kind of very subtle in property, not being treated the same as the next man, that kind of thing, at my previous church. And the people I spoke to about it close to me kind of put it, kind of this in your head kind of thing. But just to throw a few examples out there, more often than not, if we were sitting down, this is before COVID, if we were sitting down, there'd always be a seat left next to me. But I would look around and everyone would be sitting next to each other. But there'd always be one next to me, and then the next man, or the next woman, or the next whoever. And you know, I just let that go. But you'd never be able to prove that. It could have been my bad hygiene. It could have been anything. But you'd never be able to prove that. Several people might engage in a conversation with me, and it might not be a particularly deep conversation, and I can just tell that the mind is elsewhere, and they're just talking to you and it's that kind of thing as well. I just think that could be anything. You can't prove that. So have I experienced anything very obvious? Honestly, I have to say no. I don't know what you think.
Well, yeah, I haven't experienced it personally, but I just know that I just think church isn't very aware, and it's just churches in general, especially in Ipswich where we are now. In my opinion, churches aren't exactly diverse. And why is that? Is that because of the area, or is it because people are stereotyped into, like Catherine said, do we just congregate together? Are we stereotyped into going to a Pentecostal church? I mean, people do generally try and congregate where they see people that look like them. It goes down to, it's not just about race, but if you go to a church where there's lots of families, then you feel more comfortable about your children being there and being a little bit noisy or a little bit fidgety. So I guess that's probably why it's not as diverse, because if you can't see people like yourself in leadership and as part of the congregation, you probably won't go. I mean, I know that I picked out something earlier on when I was just reading up on this, that the Archbishop of Canterbury said that the church was still deeply institutionally racist and that we should be ashamed of its history. Synod members backed a motion to apologise for the church's racism since the arrival of the Windrush generation, which we just spoke about, and voted to stamp out conscious and unconscious racism. I mean, the church that we previously went to was a really welcoming church to the Windrush generation. It's got a really good history in terms of generations that sort of grew up in the church. They went to the school next door to it. And even this year, we were supposed to have a celebration at that church to celebrate Windrush, and the fact that St Matthew's, the church that I'm talking about, was so welcoming to all those people that came to help us rebuild the society. It's sad that churches are still kind of falling behind. When you think how rich the history is in one particular church, it's such a shame it hasn't carried on and it's kind of filtered out.
Another thing we spoke about as well, the fact that you've got that school which is so diverse right next door.
Yeah.
You've got a school right next door which has got a wealth of diversity in culture, yet that doesn't really filter through. It's sad.
And look, we appreciate that they're difficult conversations to have, talking about race, particularly possibly as a church. It's not been highlighted as it should have been. And, you know, as Bridge Church, we're not here to vilify specific people, but raise awareness and get the conversation relevant. We're a church for Ipswich, for community and for change, and that's what we want to lead. We've had a few people get in contact via Facebook. One comment here, which I just can't believe, that they have a friend who was told he couldn't go to a white area to lead a church because he was black and he wouldn't fit in. And I think, sadly, that brings to the forefront that racism is prevalent within the church, seen as such. But previously, the question was asked, how can we celebrate as a church Black History Month?
I guess we could probably pick somebody in the history that we would like to sort of learn more about, and that would help educate. You know, the obvious famous person is Martin Luther, because he was for peaceful protest. So it'd be good for people to go away and really not just know the sort of highlights of his life, but really know him as a person, because he's a really interesting person to read about. There's many books out there that could help you, and that would just start you off, and then you'd be all sorts of people like Rosa Parks. You'd find all sorts of interesting people.
I think that sounds so important, doesn't it? Getting the conversation relevant, but also getting education as well and looking at it. We've had one more message in from Emma Stollery. Thank you for messaging in. It says, thank you, Tammy, for sharing. I especially think it is important you've raised the issue of this prejudice being institutional and often subtle. Especially being white British, I probably miss much of this happening, and for that I'm quite ashamed. This kind of thing needs talking about and facing, and changes of attitudes made. So big thank you. I've actually got a question, if that's okay. Can I ask? I think, in my mind, this makes the gospel of Jesus so important, that we are all made in God's image, that we are all one people. So how important do you think the gospel of Jesus is to changing attitudes in society as a whole, but particularly here in Ipswich?
I think you just have to look at some of the famous stories. You know, Jesus didn't care who you were. He didn't care if you was a prostitute or a leper. He would heal you, or he would ask you to follow him. He didn't care. He didn't see the badness that the society then saw. And I think that's how we need to be. We need to just be accepting of all people, genders, sexuality, race. I think it's all very important for us to just accept, because we know that if Jesus was here, he would accept you no matter what.
He's almost like the perfect role model, isn't he? For this topic. He's almost like the perfect example of sort of non-judgmental, sort of come one, come all. And if we all sort of try to live by that, I think it probably would make a difference. You know, we're all made equal.
Absolutely, and I think one of the great things about Jesus is that if he saw something that wasn't right, he didn't let it go. He said something about it, and I think we've got to be that person as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen lots of things on Facebook recently about saying how it's not enough to be non-racist, we have to be anti-racist.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got anything you want to add to that, but for me that was quite powerful, and actually we can't just be quiet about this. We've got to stand up, and we've got to be a people like Jesus who call out when something's not right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, in the civil rights movement, and when you look into it, there was a lot of white people too that were in the marches. It wasn't just black, brown. And,
Even the most recent, you know.
But yeah, I do agree with that.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you both. Yeah, that's all the questions. Thank you so much for sharing a bit about yourselves. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for helping us to start this conversation on race, and it's not going to end here. We want to keep this conversation going to think about how we can do what we need to be doing to change things around. And so if you have anything else that you want to contribute, feel free to continue to message in, and we can see how we can perhaps shape our sessions going forward with Black History Month and all that kind of stuff.
Do get involved. And look, if you're here in St Nick's listening or at home listening and that's made you think, who is Jesus? Why don't you get in contact with us? We've got an Alpha course hopefully commencing in November. So stay tuned with us on Facebook and through the website, where that's quite an informal, laid-back, relaxed way to meet others in the community and just explore Jesus, explore faith. There's no right or wrong, so we'd encourage you to get involved with that.
Indeed. So this brings us to the end of our time together that is being live streamed. Now here in the church building, we are going to go on to a time of sort of quiet reflection, listening to some music and then thinking about what we've heard. This will not be live streamed, but we do encourage you, if you want to be a part of that, you're so welcome. So come along next week and join us. You can join us to watch both this part live and then join us for Live Source afterwards in that time of reflection. We would love to have you.
We certainly would. So that wraps us up for this morning. Thank you so much for joining us at home and in the church building, and we look forward to worshiping a bit more later on this morning. We will see you all the same time, same place next week. We hope you have a great week.